Good morning, folks. Painless. You see the title of the video? Excuse me, it's early. Um, I was kind of having a conversation with some people on a Facebook group in wake of this shooting of Pierre Loury, 16-year-old black male teen that was shot in Chicago by Chicago police officers. And it's always this perversion of to me the obvious. Someone, and I was kind of half-assed reading the comments, and not diligently reading, but it was the same old, just deflect, just muddying of the waters of what was so obvious to me. And it was one other guy, one older brother, that was kind of co-signing, what I was saying. You get the likes, when people like, they're not coming out and saying, yeah, I agree with you, but you'll get the like. People play funny like that on Facebook. It's so, you look at what you'll say something, and then that person will come back and then they'll like what they said about you. And it's kind of like they're playing like tag without saying nothing. So you know what their positions are based on them liking someone you're having the debate with in some way, shape, or form. Social media does. And let me say this about social media. This slide that's in there. Me, I rarely have discussions like this. I rarely share my views with people outside of YouTube because I'm never really in the opportunity. I'm never really in a position where I'm presented with a situation to express my views. I've said that YouTube is a way for me to. I don't take it seriously necessarily. If you notice me, I don't really comment on my videos. I recognize and I appreciate the comments that I get from you all and things of that nature. But I will say this stuff if given the opportunity in public. If you ask me, Painless, how do you feel about blase blase? You will get something that you hear out of my videos. For instance, if you ask me about the violence in Chicago, you're going to get what you hear in my videos about my opinions about Chicago. See, social media has given people a platform, for the most part, for people to say things that they wouldn't say to your face, i.e., all these tough talking. I've had many people threaten me over internet, saying that I've had people say they're going to fly over here and fight me. I've had all kind of threats in the past, but that's what social media has done. Okay, all right. So I will say these things if presented. If given that opportunity, I would say these things. But I rarely have conversations like this. But so I was just looking at the comments and things like that, and this guy talking about this case said, started talking about the white man and how the white man, he made guns because he was a coward, and all this stuff. Then he got it into who created gunpowder. Then somebody said the Chinese. And then it got real silly, but it got me to thinking the mind of pro-blacks nowadays, and these young 20-something kids whose minds are shaped after being bombarded with all this media about black men having a proverbial target on their back, with white men on the opposite end. Like black men are just being indiscriminately shot by white men for absolutely no reason. And this is like the overall sentiment amongst a lot of young black youth. I mean, I said about Pierre Loury, and like I said, I only had one old brother. He had to be around my age. Was kind of agreeing with me, and I don't look for approval or validation, but the truth or what is perceived as will manifest itself. Like I said, it was so obvious. There comes a time where when you say things, it's just so obvious. You can't. It's so glaring that you can't dispute it. And I said that Pierre Loury, you know, like someone said, did he deserve to die? It's not a question of whether he deserved. When people say that deserve to die, well, one thing is true: we're all going to die. That is factual. How you die and the circumstances surrounding that is, for instance, Pierre Loury. I don't think there was anything mythical, no magical hand in how he died. He chose to die that day. He had total control of his actions, and he was totally the cause of his death based off his choices. Some people say, well, am I in a position in because of my circumstances or my choices? I say for the most part, most people are in the predicament that they're in their life based off their choices and not necessarily the circumstances. We all have free agency. We all have a choice. Pierre Loury chose to shit on his that day. It's not whether he deserved to die, because now we're shifting the goalposts. Now you're taking it to, now we're going to get into an argument. Now instead of looking at his choices, now you're getting on. We're delving somewhere else that is really irrelevant. It doesn't even really matter. And that's what a lot of people do. And don't be bogged down by this. They love to move the goalpost when talking about issues, especially about black on black violence. And I said, a white man outside of the cop being white, I believe, the white man, the man, had absolutely nothing to do with Pierre Loury's death. Pierre Loury had everything to do with his death. And I would say his upbringing, i.e. his mother. And we all saw in my last video, you saw the mother. She doesn't look very motherly to me. It's unfortunate any mother loses her child, but I think it was expected. And many of these mothers out here in the street life, many of these mothers in these cities, many, that are 35 with 17, 18-year-old kids, when they see their sons blasted with tattoos on the face, money, guns, you have to know that your son's not going to live long. And I think it's safe to say she probably had love for him, but she knew he was going to be worm food shortly. She knew he wasn't going to be a model citizen. Therefore, she didn't take the necessary precautions to prevent such. So that tells me she really didn't give a damn about her son. And there's tons of mothers like this. So, any loss of life makes you be like, damn. But there's some people that don't deserve to walk amongst people who follow rules, don't try to hurt each other, believe in being as fair and equitable to someone as possible. But you have a lot of people who aren't like that. The world is a cold place. And when you reach over and violate somebody's right to live on this plane by killing them or intentionally hurting them, you have to pay the consequences, and the cost can be death. The cost of Freddie Gray's stupid decisions was death. The cost of Michael Brown's stupid decisions were death. The cost of Pierre Loury's stupid decision to point a pistol at a person that is sworn and has the legal authority to blow you to smithereens was death. No white man required. And who cares if the white man used guns? If you took guns out of these shines' hands, they're going to find sticks, stones, knives, pots, pans. I don't care what you have to kill each other. That's why, that's why guns aren't the problem. If you were to take guns from these people out here, they'll be using fucking slingshots when it's all said and done. So, miss me with that. And that's the thing that you hear from a lot of pro-blacks. Well, the white man taught us how to be aggressive. If you look at the white man's history, he's always invaded countries and took over and killed the people. So is the rest of the world. Just like slavery. White folks didn't invent slavery. Slavery has been used by damn near in some way, shape, or form in every society, in every culture, every civilized, group of people around the globe. Homosexuality. Well, Africans didn't practice homosexuality. That was invented by the white man. Bullshit. If you look at a lot of groups of people around the world practice homosexuality or same-sex involvement in some way, shape, or form. And this is the fallacy and the arrogance that you hear of pro-blacks. Well, let me ask you this, pro-black. If you're acting like a savage and a barbarian because you've learned that from the white man, then why the fuck haven't you learned how to build great communities that are functional, that serve its people, that are productive, that aren't violent? Because like I said, when I look at white areas, they're safe. When I see an enclave of white people, you don't have to worry too much. You don't have to worry about getting shot in the head by a stray bullet. Your kids can go to class and learn. No fighting, no things. Look, you're not going to find metal detectors at an all-white school or predominantly all-white school. You will for blacks. It's much safer to live around, even as a black person, to live around white people. And like I said, most black people that have this belief that, we're all white, you're going to have problems. They've never been. See, I've been to schools. I've been to an all-white school before. And like I said, I've lived in Alabama for a great part of my life. I went to an all-black school. So I've seen the variances. There were hardly any fights at all-white schools. At all-black schools, there was fighting all the time. That's just how it is. So, this idea, why haven't you learned that, pro-black? If you learn violence from the white man because the white man's history on this earth is violent and savage, and he crawled in the cave, and he didn't know how to take baths and all this, why haven't you learned how to build a great civilized society? In fact, when you're giving keys, when white people turn over cities like they did in Detroit, Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, why haven't you been able to pick up where they left off? Why does the white man need to come and save you all the time? Why didn't you learn that? If you believe you learned savagery and violence from the white man, why haven't you learned how to be productive and civilized and stuff like that? Why haven't you learned how to take control of your communities? Why don't black children respect their elders in so-called black communities and listen and stop killing? Because the problem doesn't lie with white people. You were savage. You were unintelligent before the white man encountered you. You were. You can't pick and choose. You got to take the good with the bad. You can't say the white man brought you homosexuality. When you lead amongst gay men, as a black gay man, you lead in HIV. You know, I mean, either so are you more gay? Or white men more gay or more gay? If white people introduce homosexuality to you, why are you more gay? I know it sounds crazy. Why are you more gay and promiscuous than white men? And I've talked about this. I kind of mentioned this. I said if I was a gay black man, I wouldn't sleep with another black man. And I know you can use this, you can snip this out and roast and take what I said out of context. The point I'm making is that, there's a great risk. Like I said, even if I lived in the city of Atlanta, I probably wouldn't even sleep with any black person because the risk is so high. You take a risk while in this day and age sleeping with black people sexually. And I think many people know this because how promiscuous we are. And it's getting worse. I've said that black people are truly regressing. You lead in violent crime. You lead in AIDS, other serious STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, things of that sort. You lead in that. Even with black women, because, I know that a lot of them can be promiscuous. And I know since they've been with, there's so many dirty black men out here that they've been with. You probably wouldn't know. And I'm going off on a tangent, but the point I'm making is that, you can't play this game like where the white man shot us. We learned this from the white man and this and that. Well, why didn't you learn the good? Some of us have, but more. I mean, since black folk love to think in a collective. Collectively, we it's not matching up to what you're saying. So, I mean, it is what it is, though. But I've been rambling. I'm going to cut it short, but that's just some of the illogical fallacies that pro-blacks love to use. We learn this from white men. That's why we're so violent. We learn how to be gangsters from Italians and things of that nature. Well, the Italian man has dropped that. And it's different. It's more civilized. La Cosa Nostra and thing, like I said, for the most part in Italian neighborhoods, Miss Genovese doesn't have to lock her doors and put, bars, because if one of the little Italian boys breaks in Miss Genovese's house and rapes and kills her, Sal and the boys around the block in front of the pub are going to kick his ass. However, if you go in a black neighborhood and Miss Green, she has to lock up everything, put her back. She has to do a freaking lockdown before she's got to do a systematic lockdown before she goes to bed every night to keep one of you dreadhead shines from breaking in and raping her. And guess what? There aren't any checks and balances. There's not no black men around the neighborhood that's going to check his ass. That's why. But again, you want to emulate. That's why, a lot of pro-blacks are full of shit, are full of caca, feces. And, I just, you can sift through the arguments, and reaching for the low-hanging fruit, which is the white man, is easy to do. Pierre Loury chose his death. When you start talking about did he deserve to die, now you're going somewhere else with it. It's not a question of whether he deserved to die. It's more of a question. It's not a question. It's more of an issue of he brought and how he brought upon his untimely, unfortunate death by his stupid ass decisions. All right? And I know it stings. I know it hurts. But that reason and logic is a mother. I tell you, boy. You either hate it or love it. Take your pick.